Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Handmade by Ying with Donna. Today is legit kit delivery day and guess what I just got? Yep, month 2 of the box of the month. I'm telling you right now, it's off the hook. I'm loving every step. I'm thankful and blessed you're here with me, and we're going to walk through the setup this time as well as making these blocks. So you're going to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of what I do when I'm working my legit kit. So I've got month 1, block 1, 2, 3, and 4 done. And today we're going to kick it off with a real quick, I'm going to show you how I set up because I've gotten a lot of emails on it. Then we're going to get busy and build this block. So let's get busy. So this is the way your kit will come. It's in a plastic sleeve, and I've already took the liberty to take it out. And it says Colored Vortex. What an amazing name. And this is your month 2, and it tells you the size. You're going to have 6 colors. There's a total of 19 pieces this go round. And it's always a challenge and a fun experience as you're building these out. As you can see from just the picture, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little pieces in one. So it's going to be fun just to watch and build it out. So let me flip this over and I'll flip this one. This is going to show you your finished quilts. This is what comes next. You're going to get a list and it's going to have your colors. So last month, there's 4 colors that I used. So this month I only need to make 2 extra label packs. So let me see. This is the pattern side for month 2. This is the assembly guide. And it looks like we're only going to have 2 blocks that's going to need any assembly. So that's not really bad at all. Where the dotted line is where we'll marry this block together and bring it down. Then we'll do the same for the next one. This here is your color chart, and it's showing you the way that they recommend that you cut out your fabric. This piece of fabric that you're going to get for cactus is only a 4 by 5 by 5 by 5 fragment. It's only a little piece, but this is what you're going to cut out of that. And the chart use, this one you're going to make 7 cuts out of. So you'll see what I do along the way. But what I do is to make sure that I'm keeping everything handy and everything in its own packet, I'm going to slit these and drop these into my folders. So I have key lime and kiwi. So I'm going to slit this one. I really rely on my cutting charts. It helps me, that way I'm sure I'm getting everything just the way that I need to. You don't have to use them. As I said, they're just a guide, but I like to. So my first color here is going to be cactus. So let me find my cutting chart first for cactus. So this is my cutting chart, and as you can see, I'm only going to have a wee little piece that's going to need cut out of this. So I'll find my folder that has cactus, and I'll drop it in. And as you can see, I've still got a big hunk of cactus left from the last month, but I'm just going to drop this in because I can reuse this all the way through this project. My next one is, let me slide this back. My next color is going to be sour apple. So I'll take this piece of fabric, and I like to fold mine in half when I'm dropping them in. So I'll look for the packet that has sour apple, and I used this color last month as well. And as you can see, I still have a good bit of fabric left. So if you're using the color guide, you really shouldn't have any issues. The next color is kiwi, and that's a new color this month that's being added in. So I have already pre-made the little sleeve for it. So I'll get that, and as you can see, it's in a yellow. No rhyme or reason, it's just the way that I do mine. The next color is chartreuse. Let me see, and it's double folded, so I'll lay it this way. Find my cutting guide. As you can see, there's a lot of color here, and we did have this color last month as well. And then I'll slide this down in. As you can see, I had little tidbits. I probably could have just tossed them aside, but I like to keep all of my scraps like that until the end. You never know if you're going to need just a little tidbit. The next color is key lime. And I will grab my chart for it. And this is my sleeve. And we'll slide that in. The last one is lime. And I'll put my color, my cutting chart in with that one as well. And that's how quick and simple it is to do a good setup. I've been asked to show it. You can put them in alphabetical order if you would like. Whatever works for you is what I would highly recommend. So I will get my 2 pages together. This block has 2. And like I said, it'll have month 2 at the top, and it'll walk you through exactly what you're doing. I have my paper scissors here. So what I like to do for mine is go ahead and cut the excess paper off. I get close to the line. I don't worry about down here because I'm going to trim that off in the end anyway. But this just makes for cutting your fabric just a smidge simpler. So now what I like to do is, as you can see, 3A1, wait a minute, A3A has 1 and 2. So I have my little thin cardboard. It's cardstock, and I just like to pre-fold. You don't need to sit and fold them back and forth. Just one little fold will get you through. Then I'm going to the next piece, and this is just more efficient to do it this way. Slide your finger down, and you've got your crease. You'll do the same over here. Wiggle in, use your thumbnail, and all you're going to do is press it in. Make sure that you're on your line, and I am. And you'll see here, you have some sew lines that it's okay to sew through. You'll sew into your margins. So let me set this part aside. So my first color is SA. So I'm going to look for my label for SA, and that should be Sour Apple. So I'll pull my colors out. I'm going to look for my color chart because it's going to tell me right piece, right fabric, and where to cut. As you can see, this is the section I'm going to be cutting. So I like to mark off on mine. You do not have to. It's just something that I choose to do for mine. So it's A3A piece 1, and that tells me I've got the right piece. This little number is going to tell me this is done. So now I'm going to lay my color chart aside. And I know this is not going to be big enough, so I'm just going to leave it because somewhere along the line, I'm sure that I'll be able to use that little snippet somewhere. And as you're working these, you can angle these. What I like to do is take my label off for just a minute and get my paper lined up. So since this is the corner per the cutting guide where I should be sewing, I'm moving my label down here to the bottom. It's just what works for me. You do what works for you. I pin in place my first piece because I don't want it to shift. Then I just give it a fussy cut. And it's tucked in, and I'm going to fold this back, and I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch around. It's not going to be a really pretty cut because it doesn't matter here. What matters is that end result. And then I'm going to come across just like that. So now I'm finished with my sour apple for this piece. I'm going to take my cutting guide, I'm going to find my sleeve, and I'm going to drop it right back in. And I'm going to use that a few more times. My next color is KL. And if memory serves me right, that should be my key lime. So I'll find my key lime folder, and I will pull out my key lime. So right here it is. And I should have KL. So I'm going to look at my chart. I am on A3A, piece 2. So right here, I'm marking it off. And here is the little tiny section that I need. How cool is that? They've done all the magic and all the work for me. So that it's kind of like a little bit of mindless. So what I'm going to do, this is just a little snidbit off the corner, as you can see. I'm just going to fold this back and lay this little snidbit right in there. I'm going to move my green out of the way, my sour apple, I should say. And I'm just going to put my fingers here and just give it that little rough cut in. And trust me when I say Legit Kits does give you ample fabric if you follow their cut guides and their recommendations. And should you have a miscut, all you need to do is honestly contact them, let them know what happened, and they will make it right for you. So let me get my key line put away the right way. So now what I do is I have my key lime, as you could see. It's going to lay like this, but on the back side. So that when I pinch this, I'm going to just line it up. This should, keyword should, when it's sewed in, it's going to cover the paper. You can use a light box, and I have one, and from time to time you will see me use it. So I'm going to slide it under, and we're going to sew this puppy in. And you'll see just how quick the first piece came together. And then use your snips. You don't want to ever use your fabric scissors. And we're going to fold this puppy back. And as you can see, it covered everywhere that I needed it to. You can use your little roller, or you can use your iron, whichever works best for you. So now I don't need these pins in, but I'm going to leave them just for a little bit until we marry these two pieces together. So I'm going to line up on my black line there. That's my 1/4 inch. And we're going to snip that out. And just bring it to the side. And we're going to do the same here. Same here. And you're going to go all the way around the block as we're building it. And then we'll do this back side, and you'll see how good it is when you're using your cutting chart. Voila, the magic has happened, and everything looks amazing. So I'll slide that out of the way. Close my rotary cutter. We'll clean up this little tidbit and we'll make the other part of the block. So now I'm going to pull out the second section. Now remember, this one has 1, 2, 3 pieces. So we're going to have to pull these colors and get this one in. So my first color I'm looking for is HR. And it's quite a big hunk. So we're going to do the same all the way through. This is just going to sit on the side because I will put it back in its sleeve. So I'm going to look at my cutting charts. A3B is what I'm looking for. A3B, and I have it right here. So I'm going to mark that off, and it's telling me I'm going to go to number 1. That's this section. So that's telling me where I need to cut on my cutting chart. It's just a guide. You do it what works best for you. But as I'm working mine, I want to kind of do it just like they're saying, just so that I can see that there's so much fabric left as you're working it. So it's laid out just like the guide says, and I'm going to put some pins in it just until I get these sections built, and then we will join them together and then cut it out. I would recommend pinning. Some people can baste it around. I just prefer to pin it. So right here, we've already rolled this in. So you're just going to fold on that line, and you're going to rough cut around this section. I give it about 1/4 inch. And we're going to come around here and then come down. So now I know I'm finished with this color for this block, so I will put this color away. So my KR is now filed back into its system. My next color is KW, Kiwi. So I'll pull Kiwi out, and I have my chart for it as well. So we're going to look for A3B, piece 2. And it's telling me what I'm going to need. So how cool is that? I really love this process. So right here is what I'm going to be cutting out. It's telling me. So right here it is. So we're going to slide this over. And you've got this selvage right here. So what I'm going to do is just rough cut it off because I don't want to risk getting that in to my work right here. So it's better to trim it out now. So now I've got this section. So I'm just going to line up right there. And I'm going to give myself that 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to fold this piece back. Excuse me. So you can pin in place here, or you can just rough cut. I'm just going to rough cut. If I can get my scissors under it. And just rough cut it in. So I've come up this side and cut. And as you can see, you're just going to fold your fabric back because you're trying to go with your cutting guide. I've allowed myself a little bit of extra here, as you can see. And I'm just going to go about 1/4 of an inch. You're just going to eyeball it. You can use your rotary cutter. You can use your scissors, whatever works best for you. So now that I've got this piece cut out, I'm just going to refile it. I know where I'm at. So I'm ready to sew this one in, but I want to make sure that my paper hasn't shifted in any direction. So right there is how much I cut. And now I'm going to slide up here. And as you can see, that is a rough cut, but it doesn't have to be pretty. We're going to lose that in this process as we go along. And then if you want to just check yourself prior to sewing it in, see why I needed to check, and I needed to move my fabric up. And that's going to cover the block. So always double check yourself, and it'll save you a little date with Jack the Ripper when you're finished. And then we're going to sew this puppy in. Make sure that you're lined up on the line. You can pin them in place if you would like. Slow and steady wins the race. This is kind of like mindless sewing and very enjoyable. You can back tack them in. Some people do, some don't. I like to get my strings in the beginning so I don't have to fool with them later on. And then all you're going to do is flip it over and make sure it's covering that block, and it is. So this go around, I'm just going to use the little wheel just for demonstration purposes, because some people might just want to use that instead of going to the iron if their iron is not where it needs to be. So we're going to flip it back over, and I'm going to lay it sideways, and I'm going to fold it in. We're going to use our add 1/4 ruler. It's got the lip here that's going to help you, and you're going to butt it right up there. And I'd say that's not too shabby. And just bring your hand down, and that's the little bit of slivers of a waist I had on that. So now we're going to go to the next color, which is SA, Sour Apple. So I've used this color before, so I'm just going to have a look-see. Here's my cutting chart. A3B, A3B, piece C, piece 3. So this is where they're telling me to cut this one out. So we've got that marked up. Here is my big piece. And this is the piece from one of my other projects. One of my other months. So I'm just going to have a look-see at it. Might as well use it, right? So I'll set this aside because I like to use up every little bit. I'm just going to shave off the salvage. And we're going to lay this puppy in there and get it in. I'm going to lay it down just like this, and we're going to slide it in. Slide it right there, just like that. And I've got it up and over my edges. And I'm going to just keep my hand here because it's just going to be a rough cut in. And then we'll lay this aside for a second. And now we've got that all filed away. So I'm going to bring this in and line it up. Do my little fold there. Move all of my gadgets out of the way. And we're going to get this one in. And we're just going to start on that black line, your 1/4 inch line, and just sew straight from there all the way across. And you can sew into that line because we're going to be trimming it out here in just a moment. Get your little stitches. And we're going to get this puppy in. Since this is the last piece, I will go ahead and give it a press because I want these to join up right. Right now, it looks like I've got a really messed up block because I've got all this extra paper. But once we square it in, you'll see that it's not messed up. Not at all. So give yourself a little bit of grace. I'm going to pop these pins now because I don't need them. Everything's held in place nice and tight and snug. And we're just going to line up. I highly recommend change out your rotary blade when you begin a new project. And that'll make all of this just streamline really nice for you. You won't have to really be fussing and cutting and everything and pushing really hard. And the last one, and then we're going to pin this puppy and get it together. I do use my acorn pin. I did not on this just for demonstration purposes because some people don't use them. But I will use it with marrying 2 blocks together on the main seam. What you do now is we have the charts that's going to show you how to do your placement. This one's relatively easy, but I want to show you just what the chart is saying. This is the block that we're working on. So this is the way it's going to look when we're done. You're going to be joining these up just like that. So you're going to flip it over here, and you're going to see a few lines that's really important to you. So the paper's going to be tore off in the end, so I'm okay with marking on it. You're going to see this little mark here, this little mark. You're going to want to put a pin in one of them and then come through right to there. Then you're also going to do it down here and here as well. This line is not, and I'm going to repeat, these aren't going to line up. So it's just going to be another color added in that's going to make that cylinder. So I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to lay this one just like this. And then I'm going to get one of my real thin pins that I like to use. And I'm going to start on the back side, and I'm just going to push right through. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the next little piece. Right where I highlighted that for you. You just want to make sure that they do line up. You don't want any wiggle in there. And they are in. Then you're going to come across and do the same thing on the other end and just line them up. Now here in the center, I will give it a little clip just while I'm pinning. Then I'm going to stick a pin in here and make sure it's coming through your fabric. And then I'm going to do a little tiny pin here, right where I showed you that mark, and it's going to line them up. And right there, just like that. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to slide it around. Now, right here's, I've got it lined up, so I'm going to drop my needle. I'm going to pull the first pin out, and I'm going to sew right off that line, straight on this black line. And you're going to sew slow, like I said, so your paper doesn't shift. And if you've got everything lined up, it should come in nice and tidy for you. These pins are quite sharp, I'll tell you. I'm going to pop this pin. Go real slow so I can come off the edge. Snip it. Going to snip this little tidbit off here. Going to do the same here. It's like a little dog ear. And I'm going to rip my paper. It's really important that you take this paper out here, because in the end, as you're building your blocks, you're going to wish you had a. And I like to use either my fingernails. Some of these papers get really tight. So a lot of the quilt shops now have tweezers just for FPP. And I'm telling you what, it comes in right handy. And all you're going to do is pick it out. The more paper you get out now, this seam is going to lay really flat. Now right here is where there might be just a little bit of picking, because you want to get that nice and cleaned out. Pull down and pick it out. And then right here, and snip that string. Now I'm going to take all of this paper and get rid of it so we can iron this puppy open. 2 pins in here. We'll get those out of the way. And as you can see, when you open it up, it lines up corner to corner, and this line lines up. So we're at the end of this block. So I give it a little bit of a pull. Nothing big, nothing fancy. And I just give it a finger press in here. And come all the way down the seam. The flatter you make it now, the better in the end. And you'll thank me then. And just come up the seam nice and slow. And I like to use my acorn pen, because it's just going to help it while it's being stored for a little bit, so that it lay extra flat. And it works amazing. You can get that on Amazon or in one of your quilt shops. A lot of the online stores have it as well. Flip this puppy over and look how amazing. So that is month 2. Block is now done. So I want to thank you for joining me, and I will see you back on week 2 of month 2, and that'll be block 6. So take care, God bless, and I'll see you back in the next video.